Hey everybody, it's Chris here in North Georgia, up in the mountains. Thought I'd do another video on this rainy day. Grandkids were here last weekend. What a great time we had. For those of you that didn't see it, it's the video prior to this one. But today I thought we'd talk about controllers, and what's become popular is some of the other guys are doing an unboxing or opening their new cars. Well, I got 4 new cars and I'll go through them. I don't do a typical unboxing because 2 of them are AFX cars. They're collector cars. So I surgically opened the package so I can reinsert the cars at some future time if I ever decided to sell them or for when I pack them up eventually. Don't know when that's going to be, and hopefully it'll be a long time. So they're already out of their boxes, but I'll show them to you. So the reason I wanted to talk about controllers, I'm going to talk about this DeFalco design controller, which is adjustable. That's the adjusting knob. Versus the ones that come with the AFX, excuse me, slot car tracks, these 120 ohm controllers. Pardon me. I use these for when the little boys come because they're small and they kind of hold them like that and push them. And these are too big. But with that comes an issue of running anything other than an AFX Mega G Plus car. And some of you may have noticed they couldn't run the Tyco 440s X2s because they're just, as soon as you pull the trigger, boom, they're gone. And I'm going to explain that one more time to you guys, or to everybody today. So you'll notice here that they do come with alligator clips. I did get a comment about that from somebody that bought one. And the alligator clips is because a lot of these controllers are used on some of these professional routed tracks that have driver stations that anybody can hook their own controller up to. So that's why they do that. With this, the original controllers like this that came with the set had small little 3 or 4 foot cords. They weren't long at all. So I cut the cord, and this part goes into the track, and it comes over here, and these are 2 I-ring crimp-on fittings. You can clip your clips to these fittings, or what I did is I just stuck these little blocks of wood down and ran a screw up through it with a nut, and I just clipped these right onto the screw. If your track's permanent, that's just an easy way to do it. Or you can use that as a way to isolate the 2 clips if you go somewhere else and the only avenue you have is to plug into a track. So that will work. But in explaining this DeFalco controller, which for me has worked out well, this DeFalco design, he sells them on eBay or direct. They're $89, but I tell you, it really put the joy in being able to run every different kind of car I have, from an old 1960s Aurora Thunderjet 500 all the way up to the new Mega G Plus, the Auto World T-Jet Extraction 4-gear Super 3, and then everything in between. As you know, AFX has a lot of different things in between. So basically this knob right here, I'll get it as close as I can. Hopefully you can see that. Basically this says slow to this side and fast to the left. And what that results in is this is the wiper blade that controls the voltage sent to the track. So you're determining whether you want voltage, higher voltage, first or later on. Again, slow or fast. No matter how you do it, slow or fast, when you get to that end, it's getting the full voltage that's being applied to that track. So if you look at this cube right now, and that's all the way, it's 14.2 volts. So what I want to show you here is, if I put this to the highest setting, fast. That is the equivalent of 120 ohms. This is an electronic controller. That's a heat sink. So it doesn't work off ohms. It works off electronics that you can equate to ohms, if you will. That's the simplest way I can put it without getting in depth so that we all get confused. So I'm going to show you right now, as soon as I'm going to pull this trigger on this wiper, and that's the beginning. That's the first or second notch. It's getting 10.3 volts. So as soon as I start that on 120 ohms, it's getting 10.3. So it's getting basically 3/4 or 80% of the voltage of the total volts that can go to that track. Now I'm going to turn this to about midway point, which would be the equivalent of roughly 60 ohms in the old style controllers. And when I pull that trigger, and the first registry is 8.2 to 8.5 volts. And that's what I'm showing on my little cube here. Actually 8.07. Okay, so that's at 60 ohms. If I turn this down to the minimum, which is almost 0 ohms, first pull of my trigger comes in at 6.9 to 7.2. It's moving back and forth because it's hard to control. And that's on just as I start this. There you go, 6.2, 6.4. It did jump down to 5, but then when I go all the way up, I'm at the 14.2 volts this is set at. So that explains how you can run different cars at different voltages and the response. With these, at 14 volts, this is an on and off switch. You're getting all the voltage or none of it, pretty much. So with this one, I run this here, and that's why the old 35, 45 ohm controllers work better with these cars than the new 120 ohms. And I think, from what I've read, AFX had to do that because, and that's what the circuit board and their canned motor, which I'll show you here. You can see that little circuit board on there, and that's the canned motor. They were required by the FCC or some other agency to reduce the noise that these little motors produced, apparently. And the way they did that was to put the circuit board on and bump it up to 120 ohms. That's the way they designed the set, and that got them past whatever it was that, whatever agency said you got to reduce electrical noise. I don't know if it was for pacemakers or what. So anyways, that's why this controller is so flexible. When I run a Auto World Extraction or T-Jet, Thunderjet, I run it up here about midpoint, right about 60. And I have control. I can slow it down to putt, 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 or I can speed it up to give it all the voltage it can handle. When my grandsons tried to run some of the Auto World cars over the weekend, they couldn't keep them on the track because they were getting too much voltage. And I was running at 9 volts for them with these controllers. So it really showed me the difference again. And I wanted to point it out to you guys. And Mark at Mark's Slot Car Garage, he's pointed it out with those old yellow 45 ohm controllers. And a few other people have. So this was one of the best investments I made for this track. That, these adjustable transformers, and that cube. So, because a couple of the cars I'm going to show you want more voltage. The AFX Racemasters Mega G Plus cars, they'll run just fine at 9 volts, 12 volts. You get up to 14 volts with those 120 ohm controllers and they're shooting off like a rocket. You've got no control. Well, here you can make them crawl or you can make them go as fast as they're capable of going. And so, again, that's why I chose this DeFalco controller. And it was well worth the 85 bucks. So now, I'm going to ask you guys, everybody, a question. I'm thinking of changing my channel name, because now that I've sold my hot rod show car, I've got plenty more time to work up in here and do some more things. And I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are an extension of the Smoky Mountains. The closest town to me is Blue Ridge, Georgia. I'm going to either name my channel Blue Ridge Racing or Smoky Mountain Racing. I've had a couple votes in earlier videos for Blue Ridge. And then again, obviously with that title of my channel, the track will have its own name. It'll be the same name as the channel name. It'll just say Raceway instead of racing. I want a 3-letter moniker like Pro Tinker Toys has PTT, Slot Valley Racing has SVR, and I kind of like to go that route. That's just easy. I say SVR, and a lot of people know, oh, that's Slot Valley Racing. That's Dan. Even my 5-year-old grandson, I held this box up for him. I said, can you read that? He said, yeah, Tinker of Toys. That's pretty good for a 5-year-old. So, Ryan, if you haven't watched that video, watch it. It has my 5-year-old saying Tinker of Toys. This is just where I keep my cleaning supplies. So, new cars. Oh, joy. AFX did it again, came out with some wonderful vehicles. Came out with this number 2 beautiful Ford GT. I grew up in Dearborn, Michigan, and I never was a Ford fan, but I've always loved these GTs. Because they're just so awesome. They're an amazing vehicle. So they came out with this yellow number 2, and you'll notice none of these have the SVR treatment yet. I already told you what SVR means. The SVR treatment means they get level 42 downforce magnets. These are 30. And they also get lettered tires. See if I can get that any closer. That Ford GT has had the SVR treatment. So, now, the next one that came with this one. All these cars I pre-ordered from Pro Tinker Toys. Yeah, I paid a little bit more than you can get these on eBay for. There's somebody offering them out there for like 37 bucks with free shipping. But you know what? I don't know them. I know Brian and Ryan at Pro Tinker Toys, and I like to support small businesses, and I've had the pleasure of being with them a couple of times in the last year. Once at their place in the shed and once at a slot car show in Cleveland. So I will continue to support Pro Tinker Toys any way that I can, especially because he has exclusive cars. So that's the new black, number 2, or number 4 rather. And then Brian came out with his first 3 exclusives. And right here is the first one. It's a 55, I think. 55 Nomad. No, it's a 50. Yeah, it's a 55. It's a 55 Nomad. I'm not one that drove these cars, but I tell you what, if I ever buy another hot rod, it's either going to be a 57 Nomad or it's going to be a 1959 El Camino. They are just the coolest looking cars. This one's on an extraction chassis. If you want full car reviews, go to Slot Valley Racing. He reviews every car that comes into his house. Great reviews, in depth. And the second one, this is my favorite, is this 55 Ford F100 pickup. It's just beautiful. The detail on it, Brian's Betsy Ross flag, the paint job, some ghost flames, lettered tires. It's perfect. It is just fantastic. This is the second one. Here's the first one, which has the Pro Tinker Toy logo here, Betsy Ross flag here. All his exclusive have the Betsy Ross flag. It's got some gold colored wheels. These are just amazing vehicles. These are the tallest vehicles I can run on my track because of the bridges. And that's why I explained in my first video why I had to do all these wood pieces. So I'm really pleased with these cars, all of them. They all run pretty good. And I'll show you the packaging from AFX hasn't changed in, well, in a little over a year I've been doing this, but Brian and Auto World put them in these cool little boxes with this background that you can actually take out and display them on, or leave them in the box and display. Has a description of what the vehicle is. And then it has the Pro Tinker Toy logo. And that means it's exclusive to Brian and Ryan over at Pro Tinker Toys. And then the other one was the Bel Air, or I mean the Nomad, which comes in a, says fins, because they made their standard version in fins. So these are great to have around if you want to display your cars in the boxes. Me, I have them out because I run most of them at some point in time or another. The real good ones are behind me in a case, which I'll show at another time. And so this Nomad, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is Nomad number 6. Can you tell that I like Nomads? I didn't buy the Bel Air. I'm not a huge fan of the Bel Air. It's a very popular vehicle, but I have 2 regular Bel Airs and 2 old junkyard racing Bel Airs. And the one Bel Air, which was an exclusive, which was red and white, that is the best running extraction chassis I've had out of the box. And we all know that there's been some issues with Auto World and their quality control, but hopefully they'll work on that. I'm going to continue buying these exclusives just because the body styles are great. The next one I want to see come out is the Datsun 240Z. So anyways, that's it for today. I hope you learned a little bit something more about this DeFalco controller. I'll swear by this, and he's great to deal with. And any issues you may have, if you want to add brakes, he can send you a kit where you can do brakes. I don't see any need for brakes on this little track, personally, because when I let go, they stop. So, but I'm not into the other stuff at this point in time. And if I do get into it, I'll call Ted, U of M Hockey, and he'll tell me how his track is, because he's got one of those professional routed tracks. I don't know if it's a Viper or not, but anyway, thanks everybody. I appreciate all my subscribers, everybody that's watching, and hope you had fun. And if I can educate you on what I'm learning, that's my whole goal of doing these videos. That's why I don't do the car reviews, because there's already somebody that's doing a great job, better than I would at that, and that's Dan at Slot Valley Racing. And Mark Slot Car Garage does some reviews on his cars and compares different chassis, which is great to see. The next video I do is we're going to run some cars. I decided I just want to sit here and we'll run various kinds of cars along this track, from old AFX SRTs to original Aurora model motoring T-Jet 500s, all the way up to the latest and greatest, and even this little custom Cheetah I bought at the Cleveland Car Show. Yeah, isn't that a cool little car? It's sitting on a 440 chassis, Tyco 440 Magnum. So that's what we'll do. Again, thanks for stopping, and I'll see you on the next video.